We're going to talk through our new integration to Shopify POS. Now this includes both the POS Pro and the POS Lite system that Shopify offers. We're also going to talk about multiple location inventory within Shopify. I want to dive into a new feature that supports order risk analysis coming from Shopify, imports information into the ERP. Also, we've added some features for granular sync options related to that entities window inside the Commerce Edition. This allows you to use custom fields and meta fields for mapping and filtering information between the systems. And everybody's excited about the new returns and refunds enhancements associated with BigCommerce. Well, first, let's talk about the Shopify POS integration. As I mentioned before, there's a Shopify POS Lite, which has been available for years. It's obviously a lighter version of the POS. But just last year, Shopify released their new POS Pro. And with the POS Pro, they're focused on retailers who are selling online using Shopify today, but also want to sell in their retail shops, up to, let's say, 20 locations. So within Acumatica, we have our integration with Shopify, and we've extended that integration to also accept orders that are coming in from the POS system and send Acumatica information out to the POS system. So Shopify's POS runs on iOS devices. Obviously, our integration will send information like customer information, product information, all out to the Shopify engine. And then that information will move from the Shopify engine out to the POS app. So let's take a look at the ERP, what that looks like. So here I am inside an instance of 21R1 of everyone's favorite ERP. I'm going to click into this Commerce tab. Now, if you're familiar with the Commerce Edition, you'll know that this is the one of the tools that's added to Acumatica with the Commerce Edition. All these tools are used for synchronizing data between your ERP and your e-commerce platform or multiple e-commerce platforms. So from here, I'm going to dive into the Shopify Stores section. This is the window where you would establish the connection between Shopify and Acumatica, and you would set up all your default settings. Now here inside the Order Settings tab, you'll notice this new area for POS orders. Now, in order to support Shopify POS, you simply enable the feature, and then you tell the system when orders are coming in from the POS, which order type should they be. Now, we see two different types of orders coming in from POS. There's going to be your direct orders, which is your cash and carry. You walk into the store, you buy something, you take it home. But then there's also that instance where customers come into the store, they're looking for a particular product. Maybe it's out of stock. Maybe it needs to be prepared before it can be delivered to the customer. So they'll pay for that item inside the store, but then the item will be shipped to the customer. So those two orders have a different process in the back end. So we're going to associate them with their own unique order types. Once this is enabled and these order types are declared, then information from Acumatica will be exported out to Shopify, and then from Shopify will be pushed out to the Shopify POS device. And there's lots of great features inside the POS Pro device. Things like location-specific inventory and customer lookup, and lots of great features. Everything's supported. We're very excited about the integration with the POS, and we're excited to see what our customers do with it. Now, something I mentioned there was the location-specific inventory. That's what we're going to talk about next. So what exactly is location-specific inventory? Well, obviously, if you're running the ERP, you might have multiple warehouses, and all those warehouses are going to have different inventory levels. And in the past, you would clump all that inventory together and you would push it out to the e-commerce platform. What's nice is Shopify allows you to break up your inventory across multiple locations. So if we go inside of Shopify for a second, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here I am inside my Shopify demo store. I'm going to go into settings. We look in locations and notice that I can set up multiple locations. So think about that retailer again with 20 different locations. If you were to clump all that inventory information together, it wouldn't be giving Shopify accurate information. So what you can do is set up multiple locations inside of the Shopify system. And you can do things like when orders are coming in from the e-commerce site, you're able to open these up and alter which location this particular order should be shipped from. Now, I'm showing you how that's done manually, but obviously if you have a strong Shopify developer, they can build scripts that will do these kinds of things automatically for many different reasons. In addition to this, imagine one of those retail locations where that inventory is out of stock. So if a customer comes into a store and they're looking for a specific item and it happens to be out of stock, being able to pull up the POS, search for the item, and find which stores have this item in stock is a very valuable set of information for the customers. And these are exact use cases of what our new feature is attempting to solve. Okay, so I'm back inside the ERP. Let's start by looking at the inventory settings. So notice this new section at the bottom here, warehouse mapping for inventory export. Okay, so what we're doing is we're mapping ERP warehouse locations with those Shopify locations. So imagine you have your 20 different retail locations here, and they're associated with Acumatica's warehouse locations. And notice I can drill into specific locations in the warehouse, but I can map these. So all my inventory information associated with these warehouses will export to Shopify in association with the appropriate location. This is really helpful for that POS use case. Imagine a customer comes into a store, they're looking for a particular product, it's out of stock, they go to a customer service rep, they pull up the POS app, they find the item, and they find which stores have it in stock, and then they figure out the best thing to do with the customer. By having that accurate information inside the ERP being pushed out to Shopify and to that POS, you're able to inform the customer and help them make a wise buying decision. But it's not just exporting inventory information, it's also importing information. So I showed you before, inside Shopify, you can declare a specific location associated with an order. As I mentioned, a developer could set up all kinds of cool apps that would do that for you for whatever reason. When those orders are coming in, the system recognizes which location is associated with the order, and then it maps that location to a specific warehouse inside the ERP. This can come in handy in that same POS instance, but also imagine a customer that's buying a time-sensitive item and they're looking at warehouse inventory levels on your website and they're making buying decisions associated with that information. Or maybe they're on the website and they need a product that they need to buy today, and you're able to tell them which retail locations have that item in stock. Being able to push this information out to Shopify and then also accept orders with this information associated with it, very valuable for customers. Okay, the unfortunate truth is that there are some bad characters out there that try to use e-commerce sites for fraudulent purchases. Shopify is combating this with some automated algorithms that analyze orders as they're coming in, and if they find one that they suspect is fraudulent, they'll flag it in the system. Now, when they flag that order, the order is pushed into a specific status that will not allow it to be imported by third-party applications. What we've learned from talking to merchants is they do want those orders to come into the ERP, but they want them put on hold and flagged inside the ERP so they can make a manual decision about what to do with the order. And that's exactly what we've done. So we've added a feature inside the ERP, inside the order settings. Again, I'm in that Shopify stores page. Notice here that I have the ability to enable and disable this feature for importing orders with risk associated with it. And then I can also choose, do I want to import high risk orders or do I want to import both medium and high risk orders? When these orders are brought into the ERP, they're automatically put on what's called a risk hold. So let's go ahead and look at one of these orders that has a risk hold. If I go into the sales orders, pull up my list, notice that this first order has a status of risk hold. So this is one of those orders that was flagged by Shopify. Now it was imported into the ERP, but it's put on hold so I don't accidentally process it. And I have the ability to review the order and make a decision as to whether I should cancel it. Maybe I should reach out to the customer and verify the order. Or maybe I've seen this before and I just want to process it. From here, I can choose to remove the risk hold, which is going to make this order open so that I can process it. And of course, if I decided to, I could go back into Shopify and cancel the order. It's going to cancel inside the ERP. I have a lot of different options there. Okay, that's something that some of our bigger B2C merchants have been asking for, and fortunately we got it in 21R1. Okay, let's talk about the next feature. This is a little bit more techy, okay? It's actually one of my favorite things about the Commerce Edition. If we go into the Commerce Edition and to the Entities section, the Entities window is where you control the sync of data between the two systems. Now, Commerce Edition comes out of the box with many fields already mapped. So for instance, when you're exporting products out to the e-commerce platform, it's going to send the product title, description, images, attribute information, whatever you need from the ERP. Out of the box, it's going to export it out to the e-commerce system. But as you know, every single merchant is a little bit different. So we built this entities window that allows you to go to specific entities, like let's pull up a stock item, and I can do things like map specific fields in the ERP with specific fields in the e-commerce platform. I can also use information about the entities. A good example are sales orders, to import the orders in a specific way. So I can import and export using filters. So for instance, a great example is I want to import every order after a specific date. Or when you're importing customers, maybe you have information about a customer saved in the e-commerce system and you want to filter specific customers out. Okay? All of this is very beneficial. We've seen merchants use it in many different ways. Now, as you may or may not know, inside the entities window, we can use all of the endpoints that are available to us in both the Acumatica API and the e-commerce API. So for instance, when I'm importing information, notice that I have the ability to use this source field to drill in to all the different endpoints that are in the e-commerce API. All of the endpoints are available to me. In addition to using these endpoints, I can also write formulas to handle the importing and exporting of data in very unique ways. But one of the things that we heard from merchants is that every business is different. They set up custom fields inside both their e-commerce platform and the ERP. And those custom fields are usually associated with very specific business purposes or use cases. And they needed to use those custom fields for the mapping and the filtering in the entities window. And that's exactly what we've done. We've added the ability not only to use the standard endpoints in the API, but you can now also use those custom endpoints. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to see what people do with that new feature. The last thing I want to talk about is our returns and refund support for BigCommerce in 21R1. Now, since 2020R2, we've supported this in Shopify, but we heard from many merchants that having this support for BigCommerce was really important to their business. Obviously, merchants who are using Acumatica and their e-commerce platform together, the ones that are selling in this omni-channel environment, they're using the ERP as the foundation of their business. So being able to pull that information in from one or multiple platforms is very important for their accounting purposes and also for order management. Now, if we take a look at the ERP, let's go back in and look at the Commerce tab. This time we're going to go to the BigCommerce stores. Same window that you used for establishing the connection with BigCommerce. If we go into the entity setting, notice that there's a new entity here for Refund. So this is the new entity that needs to be enabled, and we can also go into the order settings and see 3 new fields for return order type, refund amount item, and then also the refund reason code. So whenever those refunds are coming in from BigCommerce, it's using this information to create the refund inside of the ERP. Okay, and the last thing I want to show you is in the payment settings. If we look at our different payment methods, there's a new column here for processing refunds. So in this case, the test payment gateway, I'm going to go ahead and check that box off. Okay, so let's process a return and refund. Okay, so here I am in the BigCommerce admin. Let's just take one of these orders. Now this order has shipped, and let's just imagine that the customer's called in and they want to return the item. As an admin, you would find the order, go into the edit area and click refund. Inside of BigCommerce, you have a handful of options for refunds. You can refund the entire order. You can rent, if there were multiple line items on the order, you could refund individual items. Or let's just imagine that the order arrived to the customer's house, but the box was damaged and it had some kind of impact on the product. If you wanted, you could just apply a refund for a partial amount without the customer having to send anything back to you. Okay, in this case, we're going to just refund the entire order. We're going to tell the system how many units need to be refunded. In this case, it's just one. So we're going to go ahead and continue. The system is asking me where do I want to issue this refund. In our case, we're just going to use the test payment gateway because that's what was used to make the purchase. And then we're going to confirm the refund. Now, as soon as we've done that, it's now recorded inside of BigCommerce, but let me show you how it's pulled into the ERP. So let's go ahead to the Commerce tab again. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click on that refund row. We're going to prepare this information. That's pulling it in from BigCommerce. We're going to click on this link, and that takes us to this one node of data that is ready to be pulled in. We're going to select it and process. And now the refund's been pulled into the system. So whenever we go back to our sales orders, we see that there is a new order, an ER order, which we open up and we find this is of the order type e-commerce RMA order, which is a return order, in the system, and it's ready for processing. I should mention too, there's lots of different types of returns. There's going to be those partial returns, there's full cancellations, there's going to be instances where multiple line items have been ordered and only a portion of them need to be returned. We really have spent a lot of time thinking about all the different scenarios and talking with merchants about the challenges they face. And we're hoping this is going to save them a lot of headaches in the future.